All right, teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the number one show on innovative teamwork in mean over approaching 2 years straight of this being the number one podcast on innovative teamwork, meaning you go on your podcast app, you look at Up Innovative Teamwork, this show will pop up as the number one show, and there's absolutely no plans of slowing down whatsoever. To my regular listeners, you hit the play button and you know what goes down here. You know how we roll, all right? Whatever the challenge is, whatever the obstacle may be, whatever the thing is that may be getting in the way of your success, we are here to indirectly tell you you are not going through it alone. Today, man, oh man, I have Miss Sarena Diamond, the founder. It's Diamond. Hold on, I want to make sure I get it right. It is Diamond Solutions Group. And I wanted to make sure I got that right because as I was listening to you previously, Sarena, like I was saying before we started recording, there's such a great deal of confidence that you're able to exude in terms of how you built your career from IBM, the way you embrace having a unique name and how you've used so much of the things that normally go against a person, how you used it to your benefit. So me having a name like As One Crookshank, I'm actually very, very inspired by folks like you who don't use it as a way of like a crutch, but we use it now as an opportunity to build our careers and things like that. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here.
Yeah, so let's go back to the beginning because I know you spent 18 years working at IBM, and previously, obviously, it's not something that you just fill out, you just find on Indeed or anything like that. So, what was like your background like? What was your background like? How did you grow up? What were some of the things that you learned in school that led you into that
Sure,
career?
sure. So I actually was the first generation of my family to go to college, and I, from a family of entrepreneurs,
Right.
saw how hard they worked and said, "Nope, go in corporate." Um, Ironically, it took me a little while to come
Yeah.
back around, but
And this was
I
New York, from New York?
New Hampshire,
New
originally
Hampshire.
from New
Okay.
Hampshire,
Okay.
and I majored in computer science and management
Mhm.
studies. I started my career at Accenture back when it was called Anderson Consulting.
Mhm.
And I was very technical, did computer programming, moved on to business solutions in client spaces, but really focused in consulting.
Mhm.
Um, and I moved from there into client environments. I worked at Pepsi, Hyperion.
Mhm.
And then, as you noted, I moved into IBM for, as I called it, the second chapter of my career, which was really around transformation and helping an organization like IBM find all the ways to transform. And through that path,
Right.
I learned enormous ways of helping teams,
Yeah.
helping leaders create transformational change,
Mhm.
and ways that were effective for those teams. So I often say that I started my career at Accenture, I ended my corporate career at IBM, and I've done all kinds of things in between there.
So walk us through a little bit of the timeline that was going on because I graduated college 2011 and I believe Facebook was now becoming a thing, YouTube was now becoming a thing. LinkedIn really wasn't that big of a deal. Like when it comes to computers and like I was telling you before, I'm very overwhelmed. I'm very intimidated when it comes to like the tech space and saying that I know this and stuff like that. And it's because it can go in different directions. So when it comes to the things that the leaders were struggling with in these companies as you were growing and as you were helping these teams, what kinds of things were you kind of helping them out with as the technology landscape was changing?
It's great that you asked that because lots of times I will, even now as a solopreneur, independent consultant, I will get clients that will ask, "Can you help us with this technology adoption?"
Yeah.
And technology, the one thing that has been consistent since, certainly since you've been out and
Right.
for a big part of my career, is that the rate and pace of change of technology is unable for any human being to keep
Yeah.
up with. I mean, we're seeing it now with AI, right?
Yeah.
They're not able to keep up. And so wedding yourself to it must be this technology has become a fool's errand, right? So I oftentimes help leaders and talk with them about what is it that you're trying to accomplish.
Hmm.
And there's lots of tools. So I will get, somebody will say, "Oh, I need somebody that can do this with this technology."
Yes.
And I will oftentimes say to folks, let's put it aside. What is it we're trying to accomplish first?
Hmm.
Because that's really easy to have it be a distraction. It must be this technology. 18 years at IBM, there was a lot of legacy built tools, right? IBM had been doing some of the things that I was doing before there was a commercially available product.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had used their own skills, built it internally, and then continued to invest in it, which
Mm-hmm.
meant it was very hard for new people coming in that knew other things, in
Right.
some cases, to adopt. But one of the things that was consistent was, what problems are we trying to solve? What processes are we trying to support? And
Mm-hmm.
most importantly is, how are we trying to have people, the work that people are doing, better able to be more efficient, more effective through the use of technology?
Yes, and I'm actually glad I'm really, really glad you brought that up, because one of the things I just started as of the week of recording this is there's a previous guest, shout out to Kimberly, who's an HR exec. She runs an HR company named Ardent Solutions. And every Sunday we do a live stream talking about Hire Me Sunday, basically Stay Hired Sunday. We take questions from people that are trying to find jobs nowadays, because that question, when it comes to AI, like you mentioned, when it comes to how fast things are moving, people don't know what to put on their resume. And then, like you just said, it's really crazy to try to stick to one form of, or stick to do a bunch of forms of technology, instead of just sticking to what it is you need to be done. So as you transition to your own solopreneur world, I know you help out a lot of talent agencies, you do a lot of stuff when it comes to finding talent. What advice are you typically giving people when it comes to, hey, this is what I want to do, what should my skills be, and stuff like that?
Well, it's really interesting that you talk about that from a how people get hired, because and I do spend a lot of times talking about to leaders as well as people in a hiring manager position about not focusing on an expert in a specific technology.
Hmm.
It's the application of that technology to solve a problem, and the way an individual can adopt to those problems that really makes the team more effective, and people able to engage.
Right.
So like I said, there are lots of clients that I will have that'll be like, no, it must be this one kind of technology.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't any technology that you can't learn in an afternoon anymore. I mean, honestly, unless you are really struggling and you might need 2 afternoons. But realistically, there's enough online tutorials, there's enough online education for
Mm-hmm.
any tool that is out there to learn it enough if you've got a base of skills. Granted, if you're not going to learn coding,
Right.
well, actually, lots of people are learning, coding at a
Listen,
later
I
age.
see, the thing is about that is, as I see the amount of like numbers and all the stuff that's going around, I don't want none of that. I'm paying somebody. I don't want none of that. That don't even look like anything I'm about.
Now, the challenge really for all of the folks looking for a job, and I talk to a lot of actually a lot of women that are in similar positions
Yeah,
to where I am,
yeah,
because I took a very different path. I stayed in corporate America throughout all of my raising my kids and getting my kids through all the education that they needed.
right,
Um, and when the opportunity presented itself to move out, IBM was splitting from Kyndryl, or spinning off Kyndryl. And I jokingly referred to that time in my life as figuring out that I wanted to
hmm,
choose door number 3, please.
yeah.
Um, and I didn't go with one of the two for that very specific reason of wanting to help leaders find ways to make their vision for change come to life.
Yes, and it is very, very, it's great that you brought up being a woman, and the fact that that you raised your kids before you got into corporate, because I speak to a lot of women as well. And some of them are, out of work. Some of them are start in between jobs, but they're still trying to raise kids as they're doing that. But they grew up in my generation. So they have all these technologies, they have all these things that can make them money, whether it's influencer, whether it's, I'm going to do some things, I don't know, blogging, whatever it is. How do you advise women, especially the women that, and I'm not saying this to discount the things that the men go through, but when you're talking specifically about a woman whose responsibility is also to raise the kids as well, what kinds of obstacles are you seeing that they go through, and how do you help them through that incredibly challenging time?
I think that for a lot of women, the certainly the pressure is on them to be
Yeah,
trying to juggle bit. And there's plenty of, frankly, I know lots of working fathers that are struggling
yeah,
to
that's how
be
I want to
present in
discount
their
the
kids'
fellas. I
lives,
did
right?
not
So
want to
it's not
discount. especially in this
right.
political season. I'm not gonna bring up politics here, but it's
No, no, it's
we're not
fine.
doing that.
But I do think that at some point, women, and I will say this, I've said this very often, that I defined my own success path
Hmm.
differently than what is traditional, right? The corporate, I've had two pivots in my career.
Right.
Just before I joined IBM, I had that giant corner office with the
Hmm.
nameplate on my parking space.
Yeah.
And
Everything
I
would want, like from the outside looking in, you would say, "Man, so you made it, you did it."
I
Yeah,
made it. I
yeah.
made it. And little did I know that I was on the precipice of becoming a single parent, of
Okay.
raising three kids by myself.
Wow.
Um, but I will say, by all metrics,
Hmm.
that would have been you won. I redefined success for me
Yeah.
during my IBM years because it was more important to me
Hmm.
to have meaningful contributions to a job. Let's be clear, I loved what I did,
Yeah.
not because necessarily the job, but because of the people and the teams that I led.
Hmm.
They were phenomenal individuals. I have had the opportunity to really work with some unbelievably talented and really dedicated individuals throughout my entire career.
Hmm.
And that brought me a definition of success that far exceeded any of the awards that I got, any of the, you know, responsibility and the promotions that I got. It didn't, that mattered less. And
Hmm.
even now, so as a solopreneur, the contacts that I still have are those people that where I was deeply connected from a teaming perspective, whether they worked for me or with me, it
Hmm.
never really mattered.
Right.
And that is my measure of success. And I say that to women and men, but
Yes.
certainly for women is what is it that's going to matter to you?
Yeah.
Because the promotions go away. I used to joke that
We
you can
definitely.
get a bonus check, but that bonus check is going to put oil in the tank to heat the house.
They go
Most
really quick.
adults, right?
It goes really quick. Yes, it does.
It does.
It
And all of those things that are so important is really about the teamwork and the relationships that you're building at work, as being really crucial.
So kind of walk us through that day because there could be people listening in now that have the job, have everything together, but you don't understand that personal lives may be just in shambles or things may be transitioning in a way that they didn't expect it. What walk us through the day where you finally had the courage to say, you know what, it's my time. IBM, I put in my time and I'm gonna go do this. You knew it was obviously you knew it wasn't gonna be easy, but what was that day like for you?
Well, so I on paper end my career at IBM and my corporate career at IBM. I'm transparent about it verbally, but on paper that's where we talk about it because I knew we had several months in advance. We knew that the spinoff was happening. I was helping with some of the divestiture work, but
Right.
I knew I wanted to stay working in transformational activities.
Hmm.
I had an opportunity presented to me by a very charismatic leader who convinced me that my next position needed to be with their company.
Hmm.
It was all the job. It was 100% what I thought it wanted to be. I did not anticipate having my pedigree being something that was threatening to the leadership team above him. And 6 months into that job, which was making me very happy, and I was delivering,
Yeah.
and three bosses up was saying, this is the kind of person we should have.
Yeah.
I was 6 months. My position was eliminated
Hmm.
with guilty, as I call it, guilty severance.
Yeah.
They paid me severance longer than I worked for them. They knew they had brought me from
Mhm.
IBM for a specific job that they no longer could do. I will say, I was stunned,
Mhm.
a lot of people I talk to when they're being, they hop on the Zoom call, and in addition to their boss is HR. It's
Yeah.
the same MO. The boss reads the letter and gets off, and HR then walks you through the package.
Yeah.
And you can't hear it, and you're stunned. You can barely breathe. And I spent 2 days barely breathing because I still had two kids in college,
Yeah.
and I was determined to not have this impact their life.
Hmm.
And then it took me about 3 weeks and a trip to Hawaii, which
Yeah.
is already planned,
Uh,
to figure out that I was going to work for the one boss that I could always count on.
this is just
I
so
had the benefit, not everybody does, but I had the benefit of that guilty severance as a landing. So financially, I was okay.
right.
But financially didn't really matter
Hmm.
because my self-esteem was crushed. I somehow thought that it was my well-being, my presence was somehow the problem. I did find out much later that it wasn't that, but I help others see that it's not in this, especially now, it is not them. It is business, it's market. It's in some cases it's poor decisions by leadership above them that
Yes.
have nothing to do with the skills and what they bring to the market.
Mm-hmm.
But that can be very debilitating. And the sooner people can get out of that mental place and
Mm-hmm.
into a place that says, okay, watch this, or as one of my friends said, hold my beer, right?
Oh, it's
uh,
not.
right.
Yeah.
This is
Yes.
right. Next chapter.
Yes, I so
And
I
I've
mean that point you're making, that's something I guess it's something about us having unique names, but I've lived through that specific thing on so many different occasions to the point where I actually have an article out now that's titled "Work Ethic Intimidates Everyone, Including a Boss." All right, and as I
mm-hmm.
look back on it now and I think about this topic, is there anything you would tell like your former like person coming up to say, look out for this particular leader because they're not qualified. They're kind of the person that wants to, they want to have the title, but the minute you show them too much skill, the minute you show them too much work ethic, all of a sudden there's going to be some issue. Is there a way that you can probably maybe coach people into reading that in potential employers so they can potentially avoid a situation like that?
I would love to say that there is some sort of secret sauce that you can see the writing on the wall. I went from literally being Slack messaged multiple times a day by this leader
Mm-hmm.
to and doing two dry runs and of a presentation to her boss
Mm-hmm.
that she loved, delivering to her boss being very, very happy with what I was bringing to the table,
Right.
and going from being slacked messaged to silence for 6 weeks and then the message.
Hmm.
I tell people, you know that story about a water bottle at the airport versus a water bottle at Costco versus a water bottle at the movies, right?
Oh
It's
no,
the same
please
water
tell that one.
bottle.
I haven't heard that one. No, please tell me.
Oh, so at the airport, a water bottle is $7. At
Yeah.
at Costco, it's 25 cents,
Yeah.
and at the movies, it may be $3.
Yeah.
The point remains, it's the same water.
Yeah.
And as I have said throughout my entire career, my job is
Mhm.
to show up, do the best work I can. If I'm getting feedback that I'm off
Mhm.
target, I need to address that. But I can't be something different than I am just because it makes someone else feel insecure.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have three very, very high achieving kids, and I tell both, mostly my daughters more so than my son,
Mhm.
because it's a thing.
Us guys,
You
man,
can't,
it takes us a little longer. It takes a little longer. Come on, it takes a little longer.
well, but they don't have the same limits. And
Yeah.
even coach my own children.
Hmm.
You have to show up authentically. That doesn't mean you need to put someone else down, but
Yeah.
you can't make yourself smaller
Hmm.
in order to let, other than to make sure that there's air in the room for others.
Hmm.
But making yourself smaller doesn't serve anyone.
No.
And that's really an important aspect for all of the people that are looking for their job. Being confident without being aggressive
Hmm.
or abrasive is, you can be aggressive. You just don't be abrasive about it. But
Right.
being confident should never be something that you're willing to bring, squelch out of your personality,
Hmm.
because confidence is what helps people to show up and to want to gravitate towards leaders as well as employees.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean that you need to be overly confident, and you need to have confidence that backs up that confidence. But it's really important that especially for people looking for jobs, making yourself smaller
Hmm.
to fit in somewhere is never going to bring you happiness. And
Hmm.
at the end of the day, to find success about doing something that you don't dread Sunday night, right?
1,000.
You should not be dreading Sunday
Yeah,
night from,
yeah. There's a lot of that. I'm in education, so there's a lot of that when it comes to my colleagues and stuff. And it takes a great coach, takes a great parent, takes a great teacher takes a great boss to really teach the difference between confidence and cockiness. All right. And I'm glad you
Yes.
brought up confidence, because confidence is you actually know it in your heart of hearts that you are good enough for this specific position. Has nothing to do with your gender, has nothing to do with your ethnicity, has absolutely nothing to do, to be 100% honest, even where you went to school, but you know you put in the work and you work damn hard to deserve wherever it is you end up. And one of the things that I've thought about when it comes to getting through these bosses that hear that confidence and they become intimidated is a great verse. It's Colossians 3:23, where it's, do all your work unto God and not unto man. And whether you're religious, a believer or not, is irrelevant at this point. The point is you got to do all your work to your truth. You got to move in a way in which no matter who's giving you the check, you're actually serving a higher purpose, serving something that is part of your principles. And I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, when you decided to come back from Hawaii, you came back, you started your company, and you thought of like your ideal client, you thought of the person that you really want to serve. I'm sure some of that was kind of brewing within you. So can you speak a little bit to that time when it was like the aha moment? Okay, you know what? I'm done. Let's go. Sarena Diamond is running the damn show. All right. Speak to that a little bit.
But it is an awesome time because
Yeah,
honestly,
it
I
is.
I
It's
did
awesome.
just
Yeah.
that. I went for a run in the hills of Hawaii and came back
Oh.
and was like, this is it, right? And I decided it jokingly, not even jokingly, it took me longer to come up with the name for my company, despite my last name, than it
That's
did
what
for
I'm
me to
saying. And
incorporate.
so many
It's a
people
great
spend
name.
so much time on the names and the logos and the website, and they have no substance. Like you just
Right.
have, she had the substance first, and then the name and all the other stuff came about.
So I knew what I wanted to do was to help solve things. And
Mhm.
I needed to find ways to go about doing that. So I literally started and cast as wide a net as I could possibly. I was do for a while, I was going on LinkedIn job posts.
Right.
If there was a job post for full-time employee that was something that I knew I could do and could offer as a client base, I would message, track down the whole rabbit trail
Right.
till I found either the hiring manager or this person that the candidate would clearly report to.
Mhm.
And I would cold email them and say, I see that you're looking for this person. It's going to take you a while to hire them and vet them and all that stuff. Tell you what, I can hit the ground running and fill in for you as an interim, fill in the blank. It's
Right.
interim COO, interim, whatever you needed. I
Oh.
was doing that.
Hmm. So
And
you were you like soliciting yourself to be the go-between between
yep, because
whatever
I was going to
company.
find business, right? I was
Okay.
going to find, so I was doing that. I was obviously networking and reaching out to all of my network. And I got a lot of messages that said,
Mhm.
congratulations, I'm so proud of you. You're going to do great. But nobody was saying, oh, wait, my company needs you. Like
Mm,
I wasn't getting that pickup. And so then I went to the talent sourcers, the
mm,
big groups that do project-based talent sourcers. And I have had quite a bit of success there,
mhm.
finding projects and continually applying in a teamed environment. So I think that was the podcast that you probably listened to was the podcast where I talk about finding work through talent sourcers because realistically,
That was it.
Fortune 100 companies aren't Google searching for me,
Right.
but they are looking for those skills. And sometimes they're going to the big talent sourcers like a BTG or a Catalent, which
Right.
are the two that I have had tremendous success with. And I share that openly with
Mhm.
other people looking to either start their own company or fill in between while they're looking for their next job. They don't know how long it's going to take. They will take a 6 month engagement
Mhm.
with one of these talent sourcers that are looking to provide top talent.
Right.
And I have loved every bit of working with the people there. They're seeing things in the market. They're talking with clients that are trying to solve challenges. So
Right.
it's been a really wonderful expansion of my concept of who's on my team
Yeah.
to also include some of those. But I did it with a lot of different, coming back from Hawaii, I was like, nothing's off the table. I will
Mhm.
do anything to find work. And I did. It was 6 weeks later, I found my first gig.
Mhm.
I also reached out through a network that I belonged to and landed a second retained gig at the same time. So
Mhm.
I was doing two. I have been busy consistently
Yeah.
from spring of 22,
Right.
and I have no intentions of stopping. So
Well, what sort of trends do you see? And I ask that because right now I teach at a school named the Center for Creative Education, and they were for 30 years just an after school program.
Okay.
Coming from a public school and they come into the after school. But I'm assuming I got here after that. But what happened was it was being so successful that they turned it into an actual school that's now currently named the Foundation School. And that has come with its challenges because we look for projects, we look for ways to engage the community and things like that. Like, in fact, we actually just won it last year. It was our grant writer who left. And instead of actually filling the position, they just hired a talent source from somewhere that wasn't even in Florida. And that was that was just the way they filled the position. As opposed to actually paying somebody a salary, why not just hire
Right.
out the talent source? So when it comes to the trends that you're seeing a lot of these leaders make, are they more so taking the direction of not hiring a specific person for a specific role, or are they taking it where like, hey, look, we got AI now, we can save money, we can cut costs on this, we can cut costs on this. What are the things you're kind of hearing and seeing?
I am seeing in some of the engagements that I look to try and fill
Yeah.
are there. It is oftentimes leaders that are looking for experiences that they don't have. So they are looking for more seasoned, more senior people, the experiences that they might have, but they don't think that they need them long term. So a fractional,
Hmm.
like meaning part
Hmm.
time,
Hmm.
or interim, meaning between now and then. One of my favorite engagements was for a company that it was around for 75 years. It wasn't a new company, but they had never had the growth that would sustain a COO role in full time. They
Yep.
had tried it twice unsuccessfully to have somebody in an operations focused role. So
Hmm.
they were looking for somebody to stand up some standard processes, standing some regular operational excellence activities,
Hmm.
and figure out how a COO role would work.
Yes.
So it was a phenomenal company. It was really an important portion of my experience because standing up all of those operational excellence metrics and procedures and technology usages for
Hmm.
that company, and then also mentoring the person that they had identified to
Hmm.
become the COO was really, really crucial. I will tell you that they were so it's interesting because there were two companies that I've had the majority of 22 or 24. I've had these two really big engagements. This company was approaching their first $100 million of revenue.
Hmm.
Another company that had brought me in to solve a different problem, but it's $1 billion professional services company. So opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And what was very interesting was through the work I did with both of them, and as a byproduct of some of the outcome and recommendations, it was all about leadership skills,
Hmm.
leadership communication, leadership engagement of
Right.
their folks. That was the result of both of them. Now, curiously, the $1 billion company said, "You were absolutely right. We definitely need to be doing all this.
Hmm.
Thank you very much. We're going to focus on something else
Yeah.
because that would require me to look in the mirror." The one that's approaching $100 million company has already signed for me to do some additional leadership development work
Yep.
for them in 25.
Exactly.
I see that leadership and C suite commitment to the mission, vision, values, the
Hmm.
way we emulate core values in our business, the way
Yeah.
we operationalize that work. I see that a lot in leaders that are truly growing the company.
Yeah.
And when they're focused in those spaces, the growth is happening. So those are the companies I'd work for every single time. And I keep going back to those clients that have done that, make that commitment from a leadership team.
Yeah.
Um, I love being part of that growth.
Hmm. And so much of what I want you listeners to take away from that is the opportunity is yours, guys. I can really care less who's in office. I can really care less about all the other excuses that so many of you guys are making. Everything that she has said throughout this entire episode has been about creating opportunities on her own, going out, having the discipline, having the work ethic, having the ability to go out and create these opportunities. And because we live in an unbelievable time where you can get in touch with whoever you want, whenever you want, as long as you're going to be persistent and stay on them, the door is open for you to do that. And that's the main thing that I've been wanting the message I've been preaching on this show for 5 years now is you have have the opportunity to go out and open up your own door. So, all that being said, I do want to be respectful of your time. Can you just tell people, what's next? What do you see coming down the pipeline and all that good stuff?
I am doing some really incredible work with a couple of teams that are looking to take their strategy work and actually make it real, put it into operational. Everything from how do I take my core values and have them show up in our annual objectives that we're going to set for the at the beginning of the year. I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing some really great, really fun work in bringing teams together and
Yeah.
helping them to be really engaged in a kickoff, in a yearly, in an annual kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, I am just looking for making sure that the team leaders that are really committed to making change, inspiring their teams, whatever I can do to help them. So same thing for your listeners. If anybody hears this and goes, yeah, that sounds good, but how? I will do a virtual coffee with anybody at any time.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
can hit me up. I become a cheerleader pretty quickly.
Yeah. Hey, listen, the line of communication is wide open for anything teamwork related. Talking to a former football player, the whole business has been about taking the lessons that I learned from football and applying it to business. So however I can, serve and help you, you just let me know. All that being said, we do have to, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
LinkedIn's the fastest. If they just
LinkedIn.
hop on LinkedIn, they can find me on my website, diamondsolutiongroup.llc.com if they want to, but it's just quickest. LinkedIn is the quick one. Sarena Diamond, spelled with an A, Sarena. That's the best way.
Great. Yeah, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn as well too. And I would advise anyone who's not active on LinkedIn to get very active on LinkedIn if you do want any, some success and build strong relationships. It's a incredible platform.
Absolutely, 100%. Thank you so much, Aswan. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so the way I close out all the shows, Sarita, is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. It is your back to maybe I'll say a week before you left IBM, 18 years in. You are that version. Pretend that version of Sarena has come into the Zoom room. Give her some words of encouragement, and we will officially close.
I would say do what you've always said to your teams and to those folks when you have said to people, be the water, not the rocks. There's plenty of rocks in the world that are looking to keep you from moving forward. Just keep being the water. You'll wear down the rough edges off the rock and you will eventually reach your goal.
And eventually create a diamond. Eventually, a diamond will be created.
Very
I love
true.
to say that. I had to get that one. Eventually,
That was awesome.
so, all that being said, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.